Jonathan, what are some of the mental health concerns that you've seen in your practice that you'd say are associated with these imbalances in the gut microbiome?
Well, I mean, that's a really loaded question, and I'll try to answer it in the best way. So, what we do know is when people are stressed, it does change the microbiota. So that's something to think about because we know that enduring or persistent stress has an adverse effect on our whole biology. And now we also know that that can disrupt our microbiota in a way that's not favorable. We also know that a lot of mental health disorders are also characterized by abnormal microbiota, whether that's depression, i.e., like mood disorders, or even something as severe as schizophrenia. So we know there's definite relationships there. And the hard part, though, is to know, okay, so now we know there's relationships there. Can we then move the microbiota in a direction that's going to lean things in a positive way? Can we actually improve clinical outcomes? But it even gets more complicated because even psychiatric medications are known to disrupt the microbiota. And then there's even the thought that you can even provide specific probiotics to improve outcomes among patients taking psychiatric medications. So I think this field is very new. I think it's evolving. And I don't think there's any easy answers. I think as clinicians, though, we ought to try. So we ought to really think, how can we help our patients by obviously de-intensifying stress, which is a construct that runs through all mental health issues? How can we then augment the microbiota to improve clinical outcomes? Then how can we tease out some of the adverse effects from medications themselves on the microbiota to improve clinical outcomes? So as you can imagine, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot to tease out. But I do think that clinicians in the field have a lot to offer their patients just by thinking about those three moving parts that I mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for touching upon those. And I know that it was a loaded question. Where would you say you personally focus on in terms of what is your um, ideal goals of treatment when you want that healthy microbiome? And I know you just mentioned a few of them, but where do you personally begin?
So when you're thinking of shaping or changing the microbiota, I think diet obviously has a key role to play because we know that there's vast differences between the microbiota among people who eat a diet that's loaded in processed foods and a lot of protein from animal products relative to vegetarianism. That's number one. So the more you can get people to eat fruits and vegetables, more of a rainbow diet or even a Mediterranean-based diet, that's going to favorably impact their microbiome or microbiota. And then the other thing is to provide good probiotics. I like to use broad spectrum commensal probiotics that certainly have favorable effects. And as one could even imagine, there's now an evolving literature base that's showing that different strains of what I would say are more psychobiotics or strains of probiotics that are known to have a role in, I would say, psychology. Those are the ones that can be used more optimally when you're helping patients who may suffer or may be dealing with mental health disorders or psychiatric illness, however we want to say it. But I mean, it goes down to fundamentals. When you think of all the chemicals that our microbiota can produce, these are the same chemicals that David Lescheid mentioned that also are produced in our brain. And all of them can attenuate mental distress. So we really should be thinking about both brains when we're helping our patients. We should be thinking about an expanded role that we can play when we're trying to interject or interface with whatever the patient's life is all about. So we want to offer them all these kinds of tools that can hopefully push them towards a better outcome because as you can imagine, life is so hard, life is so complex. So anything we can do to help our patients is incredibly important.
I hope you enjoyed that highlight from a recent program on Nutramedica. If you want to get access to our full-length shows and live interactive events, you'll need to register as a healthcare professional at nutramedica.org. To stay up to date with our latest programs, go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. We'll see you soon at nutramedica.org.